Yeah, Emma's here with Media Watch. Good to see you too. And starting to look at reactions to this curious tale of the Russian journalist who, it seems, faked his own murder.
Yes, it's the stuff really of those TV police dramas where they use unconventional methods to track down a murderer. But this time, they actually were trying to find the people who were behind a plot to kill this Russian journalist. Now, Arkady Babchenko had been the basically focus of a sting operation to uncover this plot allegedly organised by Russian special forces. He is a Russian journalist currently living in Ukraine. Even his wife and children were not in on this particular ruse, which you can't imagine how she must have felt about this. Unsurprisingly, when his being arisen from the grave was announced today at a press conference, he did actually apologise to his wife, saying, "Forgive me, but there was no other choice." And really that apology was very much needed, because as his former employers, Novaya Gazeta, reported, it was actually his wife who found him lying on the floor, covered in blood. She was told that he had then died in an ambulance on the way to hospital. And they created and staged these photographs of that situation, which then made their way out onto social media. This is the kind of image that actually got out onto Twitter. Now, obviously, if that were real...
him.
Yes, if that were real, we wouldn't be showing it to you now because it's too graphic, but we now know that it is fake. You can, I think, maybe it's with the benefit of hindsight, but to me it does look very fake. It looks fake,
doesn't it, with hindsight?
Absolutely. But I suppose the reality is you wouldn't imagine that a journalist would go to such lengths to fake his own murder, especially when his own wife was involved in discovering the body. Now, some people have found the absurdity of this ruse really quite funny, and lots of people are joking about it online. Babchenko is risen, truly he is risen, guessing that his wife will make him sleep on the couch for the next 1,000 years or so, says this Twitter user. Well, this one says, edited highlights of the Babchenko press conference, and you've got a gentleman popping out of a coffin to the surprise of all the assembled mourners there. However, of course, the reasons that brought this about, the thing that made this necessary, it was far from funny. It's a very serious situation. He had basically been deemed a public enemy in Russia, despite the fact that he had twice served in the Russian army. And this piece from sort of a tabloid Russian news website points out that he was actually a character, if you like, in a online game, which featured basically the players were supposed to deal with the enemies of the homeland, as they are described, using fists and boots, and basically the idea is you beat them until they can't get up anymore. He had appeared on various lists saying that he was among the top 100 Russophobes that should be targeted. Now, many feel, though, that this ruse, this pretending to have been murdered, is actually setting a very dangerous precedent. This gentleman saying it is crossing a line big time. He's a journalist, not a policeman. Part of our job is trust. I'm glad he's alive, but he undermined even further the credibility of journalists and the media. And of course, at a time of fake news and people talking about fake news, this really doesn't help. Lindsay Hilson is a very experienced foreign correspondent in the United Kingdom. She says, so now every time a journalist is murdered, those responsible will unleash their bots and propagandists to say that it is fake news. And some organisations have joined in as well, saying that this really isn't the way to deal with this situation. The European Federation of Journalists released a statement saying that they condemn this lie and unacceptable manipulation. And they say they're not convinced by the so-called justifications of Ukrainian security services. Now, Ukraine is where he had fled to, where he'd been living since last year. Some, though, saying that we really shouldn't be in a position to judge. Easy for so many of us in the West to say this. We're not the ones being targeted by Russian agents. Journalists critical of the regime live in existential fear every day. There is, though, one last heartwarming image from the day's activities, and that is this one here, which was tweeted out. It is the reaction of his colleagues when they saw that press conference and realised that their friend and colleague was, in fact, alive. And I think perhaps they're the nicest images to come out from this today.
It is very nice. I get the kind of reaction when I have to buy a drink. Let's move on to the comedian, Roseanne Barr, who's seen her sitcom cancelled because of the controversy that she's launched by her remarks on social media. And she's still not steering clear of controversy. What's she been saying?
Well, it's not surprising she's not steered clear of controversy. She never has. She's built her entire career on it. But the reboot of her show, Roseanne, was extremely popular, one of the biggest shows on TV in the US, averaging around 10 million viewers for every episode. Now, the thing that got her cancelled was a tweet where she likened the woman on the right there, Valerie Jarrett, a former senior advisor to Barack Obama, saying that she would be the result of a relationship between the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes. She would be their baby. And of course, it's that reference to apes that really has upset people so much.
Is it me, or do they look alike?
In that photograph, I think it's been chosen very much for that reason.
Okay.
It does kind of,
okay.
Yes, a little bit. They don't look that alike ordinarily, but I think the photo editors perhaps were having a bit of a chuckle at Roseanne Barr's expense with that one. She did then apologise, sort of, but it wasn't enough. ABC cancelled the show anyway. But what people are laughing about today is the fact that she then went on to blame her tweeting, which was so offensive that morning. It was a whole string of vitriolic tweets, saying it was 2 a.m. and I was Ambien tweeting. Now, Ambien is a drug. It's a sedative used to help aid sleep. Funnily enough, the makers of Ambien, Sanofi, actually responded to say, racism is not a known side effect. Lots of people having fun with this one. Roseanne puts the Ambien in I am being racist. An image from a neo-Nazi march. We just took Ambien, they're chanting. Dictionary.com got in on the act, saying ambient does not mean prone to making racist comments. Ambien coming from the word ambient instead. And this one I thought was particularly interesting as well. As I said, she's no stranger to controversy. Not the first time she's called a black woman or likened a black woman to an ape. She said the same thing about Susan Rice, a man with a big swinging ape balls, according to her. And it is very much driven by her political leanings. She is a big fan of Donald Trump. He hasn't said much about this at all, other than to say that he's had no apology from ABC for the poor treatment of him.
Indeed. And Roseanne, it seems, although some people think she's incredibly funny, it seems to be rather unpleasant as a character and a person. Emma, thank you very much indeed. Emma James of Media Watch. Kate with the Business, thank you. Pleasure to see you both. And to you at home, please stay with us. More to come here live from Paris.